afternoon, following the fantastic morning and lunch that we've already had, to welcome our first speaker from the resort. I'd like to welcome the Park Operations and Development Director, Mark Kerrigan.
Okay, yeah, that's my title. Yes, I find it very interesting when actually somebody said that Wayne was a hard worker. That's something new for me, but I'll look out for it in the future. Right, I thought we'd start off because, you know, you guys know everything, don't you, about the Alton Towers Resort. So we thought we'd start off with a few questions for you, and all you need to do is just shout them out. There's no prizes, by the way, other than your own pride of knowing all the answers about the Alton Towers Resort. So the first question then: what year did Pugin first arrive at the resort? What is Pugin, Amelia Class? People who's supposed to know everything about the resort.
It's 1832.
1832, right, let's have a look what the answer is. 1837. It's pretty good.
I was very young then.
Okay then, what was his full name? Well, can you just give me that one again?
Augustus Welby, Northmore Pugin.
Correct, sir. That is clearly the table who know what they're talking about. So, moving on then. When did Queen Victoria first visit the site? Or actually, I think it's the only time she visited the site. Any ideas, anybody?
1880 something.
It was actually 1832, and she was actually still a princess then. And she had tea in the house conservatory, which we've actually just restored. And she marvelled at the gold plate and caged birds. As we all do today, of course. Okay, this is stuff that you might know a little bit more about. What was the first roller coaster built at Alton Towers, and where was it located? Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. Now John will probably tell you a little bit more about this. Go on, so we've had the corkscrew. Have we got anything better than the corkscrew, for goodness sake?
Big Apple.
I thought you guys knew everything there was to know about Alton Towers Resort. It was a steel coaster called the Water Chute, and it was erected in 1976 in Brian Collins' Fun Fair, and that's where Cloud Cuckoo Land Theatre is now. And John will talk a little bit more about that, because that's before my time at the resort, and I don't profess to know everything about the resort either. Okay, the Pagoda Fountain, this is the one that's right down in the gardens, is often said to resemble the Toho, is that right, Liz? Yes. Pathetic pronunciation, I know, in Pagoda in Canton. In fact, the Toho Pagoda doesn't exist, so what is its actual name?
Crab Fountain.
Crab Fountain, brilliant. Well, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, but it's the Flower Pagoda. And that's in Canton. It's a little bit of a pathetic question, I think, that one. I didn't put that one in. Right, what year did the Alton Towers Zoo open? Tell you what, you're a very quiet bunch. You write a lot on that website of yours. When it's you know nothing. 1959. Okay, who opened the Monterey? We're getting really excited. We know something. William Shatner and... Correct, yeah, William Shatner and George Takei. Another one. Dundalk, 1990. Oh, what's happened there? Okay, I'll tell you. It was Frank Bruno and the answer. And then, who opened Nemesis in 1994? Yeah, which ones?
Was it Robin Williams?
It was the Gladiators, but which ones?
Yeah. Lightning.
It was Rolls Warrior, Jet and Saracen. I'd actually arrived at Alton Towers by then, and I remember Wolf it was actually coming round the final loop into this station, and he'd been sick all down his and so we said to him, Luke, come on, let's go on the Beast now. And none of them would go on the Beast. So the Beast internally was known as the Gladiator Slayer from that day on. And then there were 3 rides launched in 1992, and this is when I arrived on the site.
Run away, Minecraft! New base!
Yes, yeah. No, the new Beast. And that's the one that slayed the gladiators that I was talking about. Now, you've all been on this ride lots and lots of times, haven't you? So how many lights are there on the flume operator panel? And we'll go to the nearest 5. It's a small ride, not a lot going on it, so how many lights? 72 somebody said, didn't they, I think? 69. That's an awful lot of lights. Okay, what was originally on the site of the current goal striker? Correct, the little paddling pool. I think that might be it, so let's have a look. Yes, that's it. So you can relax now. It's just me that's going to have to feel under a bit of pressure. So, I thought what I'd do is just tell you a little bit about myself and how long I've been involved in the resort. So, my career started at the resort in 1992 on November the 5th, and that was a fireworks day. We were really, really busy. And prior to that, I'd been working in the ceramic industry, the pottery industry locally, for 12 years. So, when I came, absolutely, yeah, we all know the reference to that one, don't we? Now, when I came from the pottery industry, I came to the Alton Towers Resort, and you know, it was just an absolutely fantastic place to work. And I'd say the first day was fireworks, so we had lots and lots of guests on. You know, and those big days are really magnificent when you're working them. I came in as the assistant presentation coordinator, and that was assistant to a guy named Clive Stevens, who was the presentation coordinator, as I was the assistant. And I had special responsibilities for bogs, bins and benches. And that's what I started off doing. And of course, running the ride operation when Clive wasn't here. I then became the head of rides and services, which still included, you know, bogs, bins and benches, but also all of the rides. And it was a really, really great job. I then went off to be the startup operations manager at the London Eye. I did around about 6 months down there, from October 1999 through to around about April 2000. That, I would say, is still one of the major highlights of my career here within Merlin. It was an absolutely brilliant attraction to be involved in. Very, very political in the sense of we had British Airways, we had Tussauds, the operators, and we also had the architect Mark Barfield. And the issue was, it was going to be a real struggle to get that attraction ready for Millennium Eve. And as I'm sure most of you know in the room, it wasn't actually ready on Millennium Eve. So it was quite an interesting concept to work in. I then came back to the resort and became the head of park operations, which included things like rides, technical services and security. I then moved to head of development and corporate affairs, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. And now my role combines those two things together, which is operations and development, and it's an absolutely fantastic role. So my areas of responsibility cover ride delivery. Merlin Magic Makers, who are the central creative team, if you like, for Merlin, produce all of our ride concepts along with people like John, who's going to be speaking to you later on. What we do as a rides team is we actually try and deliver them in the best way that we can to our customers. You know, and we score in excess of 90% in terms of our customer service delivery, so we know that we do a great job. In terms of entertainment delivery, we don't really have a central team that deliver the entertainment to us. We create it all on site. So the Pirates who've just been in here and all the shows, we create those on site, as well as down at the hotels as well. I'm not a creative, so I don't tend to, you know, give them too much advice on how to create something, but I do get involved in that whole concept through to delivery. Security and medical. You know, security on certain days is a massive part of what we do here. Why do people find that funny? I don't know. But certainly things like when we have the Travellers' Day here, that's why you find it funny. And also concerts and fireworks. You know, when you've got somewhere, you know, in the region of 30,000 people on site, making sure that you deliver a safe environment is extremely important, and security are one of the major teams that deliver that for us. Medical, again, really important part of this resort. You know, we're a 24/7 operation, ensuring we've got medical cover overnight that not only delivers to the resort, but it also delivers to the external villages as well. It's something we're really proud of. And then I also tend to be the person that chairs most of the events that we actually have on the park. So certainly fireworks, you know, pulling that whole thing together right the way through from concept to delivery on the day, and then also doing the debrief after is, you know, is quite an important task that we have to undertake on the resort. In terms of the corporate affairs side of the business, this is something I really enjoy doing. This is making sure that we are engaging with all our key opinion formers to ensure that the business is able to develop sustainably. It's something that we weren't probably doing around about, say, 10 years ago, as well as we're doing now, but we really appreciate that we have to do this. So the type of things that I get involved in is I chair a tourism board for Staffordshire, known as Destination Staffordshire, or the website that some of you guys may have been onto is Enjoy Staffordshire. It's a really great tourism board. It was certainly the best in the West Midlands, and it's one of the best in the country, and Alton Towers sees the need to support tourism boards like that. Tourism in Staffordshire is something like a £1.6 billion industry, so it's a very important part of what we do in Staffordshire. I also sit on the board of the Local Enterprise Partnership, Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Local Enterprise Partnership. This is the highest strategic board in the county that looks at how Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire is going to develop certainly over the next 5 years. You know, what kind of industries it's going to be going after. You know, and it covers the whole range of economic development within the area, right the way through from education, right the way to inward investment. And tourism, as I say, is a big part of what we do in Staffordshire. Heritage management is one of the things that makes us unique on Park, is the heritage of the site. And it's not one of those areas of the business that tends to give us an immediate commercial return. So, you know, when we put a big new attraction in, we tend to know what kind of return we're going to get off the back of that. It doesn't always work, but on some cases, in most cases it does. But on heritage management, that isn't really the case. But there's a big recognition in the business that that actually is the thing that forms the unique backdrop to what we do here. And certainly as we move more forward into a resort, ensuring we've got that landscape and backdrop is even more important to us. So we have a heritage board that sits on a quarterly basis that includes people like English Heritage and the Conservation Officer. And these are all the things that, you know, you guys might not find terribly sexy, you know, because you're all about the rides and attractions, but they're all the things that make this business tick. I also sit on a key attractions group, which is in the West Midlands, which is really a lobbies group that includes people like Dudley Zoo and West Midlands Safari Park and Drayton Manor, and, you know, and we go down, you know, and in many cases it's the owners of those businesses that come together. And, you know, we go down into Parliament and we lobby MPs about key issues affecting the tourism business. And then on a much smaller scale, engaging right back with the local community is something that we've been working on with Cheadle, which is our closest town. Cheadle doesn't actually tend to tap into the tourism market particularly well. You know, we do up towards 3 million visitors a year, but Cheadle doesn't really see much positive impact from that in terms of people staying overnight. And what we're trying to encourage them to do is to tap into that. So we've managed to get things like a budget hotel on their master plan. It's that kind of work that we're doing. And then another area of my responsibility is planning and product planning, and also delivery planning for the business. So myself and Liz predominantly, who's sitting at the back there, have been responsible for pulling together the outline development plan for the business over the next 10 years. And we did do a public engagement on this. It's literally blobs on the plan that talk about new ride areas, new hotel and overnight stay areas. And this is about trying to get the local authority to appreciate what we're actually trying to develop over the next 10 years and get some kind of like outline understanding that they'll support us in that. And then that draws down to the specific project work. So I tend to chair all the big ride development meetings. As I say, the ride developments are generally delivered to us now on a kind of turnkey package, although we're still extremely involved in it in the resort. But so I tend to chair those project meetings. So for example, this week we've had 2 project meetings on SW7. I know you'd love me to tell you what that detail is, but I'm not going to. I have to be really confidential in my line of work. I tend to be, along with support from other people, but tend to secure all the planning consent for the business. So it tends to be me who goes and speaks at the planning office and explaining why we think it would be a good thing for them guys to give us planning on specific rides. We have lots and lots of application discussions with the council. Lots of people think that we always get what we want, but actually we don't tend to put in for things that the council are not going to support us in. So we do tend to get what we put into planning because we've done lots and lots of pre-application work. And then I also provide quite a lot of operational input into actually when we're developing the rides and attractions. So a typical day for me, I'm not an early starter, I'm an eagle rather than an owl. I don't tend to like getting up in the morning. That's why presenting to you guys at 2:30 in the afternoon actually works for me quite well. But it also works because, you know, I have a family and it enables me, for example, to take my daughter to school and things like that. But I don't tend to finish on site much before 7 o'clock any night. That's the way I tend to manage my business, if you like. But I also do an average of at least 2 nights a week beyond that, in terms of all that external stuff I was talking to you about. And in fact, this week I've done 4 nights out, so sometimes it all does pile a little bit on top of it. But without failure, every single day of my working life has been different at Alton Towers. And that's the reason, you know, I think I've got one of the best jobs in the county. And I absolutely love what I do 20 years on from when I started. It's an absolutely fantastic job. The defining things that I think define Alton Towers are the heritage landscape. And as I say, I'm really, really involved in that. So that gives me a warm feeling, if you like. The location that we're in, it's a lovely location. You know, we're in the Peak District. We're actually on the edge of the Peak Park, and certainly when we're talking about destination and resort, that's really, really important to us because we want people. You know, we're happy for people to go and explore the local area as well because that's fantastic for economic impact. But also that location gives us some interesting scenarios that, you know, we have to work on in terms of that corporate affairs thing that I was talking about, in terms of things like traffic and you know, height of rides against trees and noise and all that kind of thing. We are an all-round we're a product. We have product that has all-round appeal. Not all theme parks have that. You know, we do. So we have lots of thrill seekers, but we also have lots of families as well, and it gives a really, really nice feel on park. We are a resort status, you know, so we are very much 365 these days in terms of the resort. We 24/7, you know, 1,600 people a night staying on site, plus a big conference facility. You know, it's a really, really dynamic business. It's a brilliant business to be involved in. But beyond anything, if I stand in the street and say to somebody, I work at Alton Towers, they want to talk to me about it. And then when you tell them that you run the kind of like operations side and development side, they want to talk to you about it even more. It's got massive, massive brand equity. You know, everybody that works here, you know, they've always got a friend, haven't they? You know, people want to talk to them about it. So that's the one thing that really is fantastic. You know, you go into meetings in Staffordshire, and when you say, I'm from Alton Towers, they like to listen to what you've got to say. I'm just going to quickly take you through a timeline here of the resort. So in the 1800s we had Alton Abbey, then 1980 Corkscrew, and you know the remainder of the Corkscrew is there as an architectural piece as you come into the park. Again, that was a really, really nice project to be involved in. We actually just did that on site. You know, one of our estates manager, Steve Brown, measured it all up, did all the necessary cutting and carving and erected it, and we just had to discuss with the local authority about what colour we were going to paint it. They actually wanted it heritage green. And we said, no, can we have yellow? They said no, so we actually went for brand purple, but I think it works extremely well. But it was a really, really nice project to get involved in. Then, as I say, the Haunted House and numerous other attractions, you know, and obviously we're celebrating his birthday this year, and that's when I came along. As I say, these attractions were already in at that time. Nemesis was my first major coaster that I was involved in. Still our best coaster on park. You know, it really is an absolutely magnificent coaster. First hotel, 1996. Second B&M Coaster Oblivion, 1998. Then Air. Second hotel, and this is when we really became that resort I was talking about. You know, I'd say 1,600 sleepers a night by this stage, with a big corporate complex and Splash Landings Hotel, and also the Water Park. 2005 Rita. This was quite interesting because we have had a little bit of a habit over the last few years of not really planning our developments maybe as in advance as we should do. And Rita was one of those where we wanted to put a ride in, but we didn't really have lots of time to go and engage with the planning authorities. And so we squoze Rita in, and I think considering it was that kind of like approach, it's worked exceptionally well. Mutiny Bay, this was when Merlin came back into the business, or Nick Varney came back into the business. And we actually, one ride I will talk about that didn't get off the ground, was we actually presented to Nick a Gershlaw coaster in the Black Hole at the time that we were considering. I think it was like 2007 when he came along. And Nick said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but he was. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but have you seen this great kind of like concept we've got going in? I think it was Billand. And we went over, we had a look at it, and that's where Mutiny Bay come from, and Battle Galleons in particular. And you know, we had a magnificent iconic feature on that lake, which was the swans. And you know, frankly, we did wreck it. You know, we took the swans off, we put that pathetic speedboaty thing on there. But I think we got a really great iconic piece of work back on that lake, which is fantastic. And it was a very interesting discussion with the conservation officer and English Heritage to get that squoze in on that site, so as you could actually get the view from the house back to the courtyard. And it was as a result of that we actually funded putting the House Conservatory back together again. You know, it was around about a 300,000 piece Section 106 work, so it's a really great attraction, and it's a great attraction for people to view as well as go on. Sharkbait Reef, again, I think for me this is probably the most cost-effective piece of work we've ever done, certainly in my time on the resort. I went over to Cuxhaven in northern Germany. This was what was known as a travelling Mickey attraction. We had two sea lights that travelled around within Merley. One went to Chessington and is still there today, but theirs is in kind of like the marquee structure. Ours, we put a building around it, and the good thing was we got all the hardware for nothing. You know, that came into the site and we just dressed it. It's recognised as one of the most immersive sea lights in the group. We constantly get really high scores on it, and as I say, for the money we spent on it, great value piece of work, and it's a great indoor attraction as well. Works really well over Christmas and periods like that. 13, you know, world's first different concept ride really for us. You know, yes, you know, from an experience point of view, you know, there are bigger and better rides on the park, but as a piece of product that fits in with everything we're trying to do on the resort, it's a great product. And then this year we've put two new products in. Ice Age, really, I think Ice Age, big learning on that one for us is the strength of an IP, you know, an intellectual property. Scores somewhere in the region of 98% on satisfaction, and it makes use of a theatre that wasn't really doing a great deal for us at the time. So we're really pleased with that. Subterra, again, a different concept ride for us altogether. And you know, it's not a big roller coaster. You know, it's not that kind of scale of investment. You know, that's coming next year. But this is a different concept ride. This is about putting things onto a ride, and it's really the first time that we've done that here at the resort. And I'm hoping that you guys, from when you went on it at day one and you're going on it today, you feel it's moved on a little bit. We are continuing to work on this ride, but it is a different concept in terms of an attraction. 2013 is SW7. As I say, we've had two meetings as an example on SW7 this week. I'm always amazed at how quickly you guys get all the plans. I start to interrogate them, and I've actually got a friend of mine, his lad, is a big TowersTimes, his sign is Salios 7, I think it is, and his name, he's a nice guy, and so when I can tell him things, I tell him things, but you guys always tell him before I do. So you've certainly got a good track record of that. But you know, this is going to be a great ride. It's something that we're again working on. I'm not going to tell you any more about it today, other than you already know, or you already think you know. So let's, because we're right in the middle of that kind of like tease campaign in terms of our marketing. You know, we're not at the reveal stage, but you can see that work's going on as quickly as possible, and it will open on time next year. So this is what I am working on at the moment. So as I say, we haven't completely signed off Ice Age and Subterra. We're still working on that. SW7 I've already spoken about. I'm working on two products for 2014. I'm working on the 2012 fireworks, so we had a meeting on that this week. We're very much at brief stage of that to start to pull up the whole fireworks show together. And then obviously we've got 2015 and 2016 products. So it's always full on. We as I say, we're always working long hours in the leadership team. Got a great peer group that I work alongside. Andrew, who's our commercial director, is in the room, and it's just a brilliant place to work. And I'm glad you guys are as enthusiastic about it as you are, because it is a privilege every day to come into work and deliver great product in a great way to everybody who comes to the resort. So, thank you very much for your time today. I hope I haven't bored you senselessly. And if anybody's got any questions, I will take them. Although I will say that I'm not going to reveal anything that is confidential to the business. But if you've got any questions, I'm happy to take them. Okay. Sorry, I'll let you.
Alton Towers has 2 hotels, and this is more than any other theme park in the country. Other theme parks are beginning to brand themselves as resorts as well, and they don't have a water park or a spa or a golf and so on. What do you think constitutes a resort?
I think for me it's anywhere where you can do at least 2 full days, where you stay overnight and then you've got something else to do the next day. So if it's easy to tag yourself as a resort, but your hotels will only be successful if you've got the product wrapped around them. And whether some of these places haven't is I suppose a point of debate. But we as you say, we've looked at growing that kind of second day. I mean, the park itself is 2 days on its own. I think our overnight stays are something in the region. Average stays about 1.6 nights, and we want to grow that. And and also being in the Peak District and looking at the things around us is quite important as well.
Hi, in terms of the water park, what are your your plans and long-term development for it? Because for myself, I've been visiting the water park, but there never seems to be anything new to bring me back to it. I just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Okay, we haven't got anything on plan at the moment. I can tell you that. Whether we actually, do put something in there, we have looked at additional attractions in the past, but it's not on plan at the moment. I mean, the key thing for us is that whether we continue to look, whether we do something additional with the water park, or whether we look at other things, as I've just been saying to the gentleman in front. Ensuring that we've got additional things for people to do on second and third day is important to us. At the moment, we are happy with, if you like, the amount of stuff that we've got in the water park. It is still, one of the best, in Europe and the best in the country. So we're happy with that right now.
Of all the parks you visited, apart from here, obviously, what's your favourite park you've ever been to?
Well, I'd actually forgot to mention this, so thanks for bringing that up. Actually, quite an interesting stat about me is that, for example, the question I'd ask is, how many times do you think I've been on Nemesis? I've only ever been on once. And the only 2 big rides I've actually done here are the Thunderlooper and Nemesis, because I actually suffer from chronic motion sickness. So it's quite unusual, when I do tell people, they're all like, wow, you're heavily involved in developing and running rides at all times, yet you don't go on them. So Subterra has been absolutely fantastic for me, because I'm constantly up there going on a ride, and it's absolutely brilliant. I have to say that I really liked, I don't actually travel that much with work, if I'm honest. But I remember the park in Holland, and I'm just trying to think what the heck, Efteling. I remember going to Efteling and doing the ride, where you wrap down that tree fight. And I really enjoyed that, and that one certainly stuck with me. And then probably about 4 years ago, I've done Disney with just myself and my wife, and then about 4 years ago I went to Disney with my daughter and my wife. And when you go to somewhere like that, it is obviously a very, very special place. But when I go around lots of other attractions, you go a long, long way to find an attraction as beautiful as this one, and also with the mix of rides and attractions that we've got here. So I have to say, my absolutely first place is Alton Towers Resort. But you know, certainly Efteling was a lovely park. I went to Legoland Deutschland as well a few weeks ago, and really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, but I'm not a big ride person. I actually probably look more for the backdrop and the feel of the place and the rides, and so that's probably why Efteling I thought was very nice.
Hi. When you go to B&M or something for a new coaster, at the start, how much input do you have in the design? Do you say you want something that drops into a hole, or do you say, do you want a big coaster next year?
Well, John's probably best talking about this, but what we say is very high level stuff. Like we want a world's first, or we wanted to do something like. And also the location of it is quite important as well. As I say, we are a reasonably restrictive site, and so what we tend to do as well is look at the location where we can squeeze something and say, what can you do here? But also talk about that kind of like world's first thing. And then John will get involved, along with Merlin Magic Makers, right at the very top level of that, people like Mr. Fisher. And they will come up with a concept, and we might, and then they'll come here and present that to Ian Crab, our divisional director, and the leadership team, and most importantly people like Justin Platt, who's our marketing director, and we will look at designs, we'll debate them and discuss them, and we'll try and draw it down to a design that's going to work both for our guests and also for the landscape in which we operate. But I guess more and more, we do rely on people like John, Candy Holland, coming to the table with rides that they've seen and saying, this is what I've seen. If we twist it in this way, if we add this to make it a world's first, I think it's going to be a brilliant ride. And so it tends to work like that.
What, if anything, is the long-term plan for the relief road around Alton Village?
We've been quite clear about this, that around about 3 years ago we actually said, look, we're not going to build a relief road, and actually that was a really good thing for me, because it as we term it, it's been kicked around in the long grass for about 24 years, where we kept discussing, we're going to do something, we're not going to do something. So we have actually sat down with the County Council and the Moorlands District Council, and we've said, look, this is our development plan. This is the kind of visitor volume that we're going to have up to the next 10 years. We aren't looking to build a relief road. Do you agree? And they do agree. So, in England these days, and in many countries, people don't go building big roads anymore. It just doesn't happen. And certainly to build a big road into here would be, right the way across Greenbelt. And so we, along with the county and the district, feel that we can manage the traffic flow and mitigate it through the current highway network. So certainly for the next 7 years, we're definitely not building anything. Beyond that, who knows? But at the moment, certainly 7 years, we've told them not. And people seem to be happy with that in general. There is always the odd person who isn't going to be, but in general, in the round, people are happy that that's the way that we're going to manage this business.
Hi. A couple of other parks in the country have invested quite a bit of money on refreshing some of their older rides and redecorating or painting. Is that part of Alton Towers' plan for some of the older attractions like Nemesis and Oblivion?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say definitely, but it's certainly something that I'm talking about. What is absolutely key is that you make sure that you utilise the rides and attractions on the park that you have to their maximum, if you like. So, we for example, did relaunch the Log Flume a few years ago. We did relaunch the Haunted House to become Jewel. And I think there's more work that we can do on that. We haven't got anything definitively in plan at the moment, but that's not to say that within the next few years we won't do something, because certainly I think there's opportunities for us in that area.
You've talked about the ratings for the rides. How do you measure those? Where do you get that data from?
Well, we do the windscreen survey, which is something that we've been doing for 20 odd years, and that's really important to us because it gives us that depth of data. And they score the rides, and so you look at them, you monitor them, you see, you know, very much as the gentleman's just been saying there about revitalising rides. You know, it's a bit like any product, it has that life cycle, and unless you do something with it, it tends to drop off. So, you know, we either, for example, like we did with the black hole and the corkscrew, we either decide that, you know, we're actually going to completely replace them, or we actually decide we're going to do something with them. So predominantly comes from things like that, but we also do on-park research as well, and obviously through guest feedback, but it tends to be through that kind of like windscreen research, but we've also, as you know, got the touch screens that we can interrogate stuff through as well, so it's that kind of feedback. I think there's one over here.
Had anything other than Nemesis won the best coaster in the park, would the other rides have had a sub-story built into another separate attraction, and would it have been another drop tower?
Grief, I don't know whether we're as technical as that in our thinking, to be honest with you. I mean, Nemesis, I think, I would have, you know, having worked in this business for 20 years, I was always thinking it was going to be Nemesis, you know, and in fact, as a leadership team, we had a little bit of a competition that we had to back one ride that was going to win, because I'd been on Nemesis once, then that was my ride, and it was great because I was able to write to key people around the group and say, will you support my my bid for Nemesis to win, and they were all sending me photographs with comments on, including John. Yeah, I mean, it's hypothetical really, you know, I mean, Nemesis is a key attraction on this park. I think it's a good idea to have kind of like an attraction associated with that. And who knows, we might consider doing something like that again. But to be honest with you, the Subterra concept didn't really start to come together until quite late on. So I think Nemesis was probably already, you know, the ride that's been voted for almost. And as I say, we don't perhaps start to plan things as far out as people think we do, although we do need to get better at doing that.
Hi. You mentioned that you've recently discovered that intellectual property can be advantageous. I mean, we're probably going to see quite a bit more.
Well, as you know, we've got Sonic on the park, and we've got Charlie. And we've also got the Ice Age now. So yeah, the interesting thing with intellectual property is that there's quite a bit of the hard work in terms of marketing done for you. However, we do have, you know, some of our own branding, if you like, in terms of Nemesis is an exceptionally strong brand, you know, as is Oblivion. Yeah, it's something that we will definitely explore. You know, and we know that, you know, other parks have had success by bringing in IPs onto their site, so it's something that, you know, any business of our nature is likely to be looking at.